It's Kane Hodder from Friday the 13th. You are listening to 13 Days of Friday on Rock Video Rental.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon, and with me as always is Caleb. This is a special episode. We are continuing with our reviews of the Friday the 13th series, and the movie for today is Friday the 13th Part 2 from 1981. It is directed by Steve Miner. The cast is Amy Steele as Ginny, John, I want to say Furry as Paul. Adrienne King reprises her role as Alice. Kristen Baker as Terry, and Warrington Gillette / Steve Dash as Jason. We got double Jasons in this one. I was going to ask you, have you ever watched this one?
No. So for context, again, I think I mentioned it before when we watched, what was Jason Takes Manhattan? What technically number?
That is number 8.
Okay. So my previous experience with Friday the 13th before reviewing these movies was just Jason X. And then we watched Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Not too long ago, we just watched the first one, and then here we are with Part 2. So yeah, no, first experience with this.
And we played the game quite a bit.
Yes. Yep.
So
I recognize a lot, but
yeah, they did such an amazing job in that game. I mean, they really did. And the gameplay had its flaws. It was a small company that made it, but man, they put the time into making it accurate. I can say that.
Yeah, for sure.
So the plot for Part 2 is Mrs. Voorhees is dead and Camp Crystal Lake is shut down, but a camp next to the infamous place is stalked by an unknown assailant. It takes place 5 years after the original. And I mean, right off from the first one, the timeline starts getting wonky. So this one came out in 1981. 5 years after the original would be 1985. And once we get farther in the series, you'll be like, okay, how do I piece this together? And how does this make sense? And in short, it doesn't. It's one of those ones where you have to leave your brain at the door and just enjoy it. So the movie, it starts off with like a recap of the first one, like the ending of the first one, and it shows, Mrs. Voorhees getting her head cut off, and it shows Alice in a hospital, and then we flash forward to 5 years later, Alice is in her apartment, and we see someone is kind of stalking her, shows up at her apartment and kills her. So they kill off the final girl from the first movie in the first 5 minutes of this one. And that's really disappointing. I mean, she was such a strong character in the first one. It's sad to see her go. But what makes me laugh is that, she is killed, but, at least the killer takes the kettle off the stove. Did you notice it takes a teapot off the stove?
Yeah. Such a weird thing to do.
Yeah. And I mean, it's no secret. So the killer, from here on out, is Jason.
Yeah. Well, one thing real quick that I want to mention too is they didn't really need to do that recap, in my opinion.
Not at all. And I mean, the movie came out a year after the original one, so it's not like it was a legit 5 years. I mean, it's 5 years in story, but it's not like it was 5 years in real time. Or a different audience might be seeing it. People that saw the first one might forget a little bit of what happened. But I feel like the first one, the ending was so crazy that it's kind of hard to forget.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and I feel, and they took the time not to kind of jump ahead and ruin anything, but they discuss kind of what happened in the first movie at the campfire.
Yeah.
And so it's just I mean, you get that, whatever memory. They bring it back up and they explain it. So it's just kind of like, did you need to spend? I was actually really surprised at how long they went and, just basically showed the end of the first movie at the beginning of this one.
Yeah, I've seen this movie quite a few times. And it always kind of surprises me how long the recap is at the beginning of it. The last time I saw this movie was in theater on the last Friday the 13th. There was last year. There was a local theater that was showing part 2 and part 3. Or was it? No, it was part 2 and part 4 together, one after another. And again, sitting there, I was just like, wow, I forgot like how long this recap is.
Yeah.
And after that, we kind of meet like the new cast of the movie, the new characters. We get Paul, he's like the leader. We get Terry, who's like just the generic hot girl. Ginny is like the main character. Ted is the prankster. Sandra is like the girlfriend, and Jeff is Sandra's boyfriend. And basically, they're just kind of there to like all they do is like sleep with each other in this movie. It's like, how many times do they do it in this movie? It's ridiculous. Or like they're all over each other and stuff. Then we get like Mark, the wheelchair guy.
Mark.
That's the only way I can really say. Like he's the athlete who had an accident. Now he's in a wheelchair.
Dude, as soon as I saw him, I was just like, oh no. Because I was just like, oh, you're so screwed.
Right? Yeah, you're in the woods and there's a guy chasing you with a machete. How are you going to get away from him when you're in a wheelchair?
Yeah,
if he had a hover round, he might have fared better. We get Vicky, who I just wrote down as like she's the nice girl.
Mm.
And then we get Scott, who's like, I don't know if he's supposed to be like the hunky guy, but he's also kind of a perv. He's the one that's always like trying to get with Terry.
Yeah.
The girl who wears like the super short shorts and the crop tops. But it's funny because there's like another scene too. So like these are the ones that we know. There's like a scene where they're talking about, oh, we're gonna go to town, we're gonna go to this bar, and we're gonna have like one night out before the kids show up, and we gotta like crack down and be professional. And when they're like outside the cabin on the front porch, there's like all these other counselors that you don't ever see again.
Yeah.
So I just wrote them down as dark-haired, nameless guy, Asian girl, black guy, striped shirt, blonde girl, and I just wrote, who are they?
Right? Yeah, no, exactly.
Even the dog gets a name. Its name's Muffin. And again, when we watched Jason Takes Manhattan, didn't I say the dog was like the smartest character because he just takes off and then you don't see him for the rest of the movie?
Yeah.
And I mentioned Jason's a killer in it. He doesn't have the hockey mask in this one. He has a potato sack on his head.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like that's creepier than the hockey mask.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty well done. I mean, he kind of just looks like a crazy farmer because he's got like a plaid shirt and overalls. It could even be like Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys with the burlap sack on his head. But I don't know. I think like the burlap sack was kind of an homage to the classic horror movie The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which had a killer with a burlap sack on his head. That one had 2 eye holes, and like the Jason one only has 1 eye hole.
Yeah. I actually forgot that because again, most of my experience with Friday the 13th was the game, and I forgot that this one was the one with the sack mask, and so I was waiting for them to show Jason because I was kind of curious how they were going to do it, and I was just like, oh yeah. So
yeah, and this was one of our favorite maps too to play in a game. Because
yep.
I feel like we played that one quite a bit.
Yeah.
Had a good layout to it. But, I mean, it's basic. This was kind of like after the first one, this was kind of the template for Friday 13th movies. You know, it's just like, oh, here's another bunch of counselors, and they're coming in, and then Jason starts picking them off one by one. And you know, some of the characters have personality, other ones are kind of just there for body count.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're opening up a new camp that's like next to Camp Crystal Lake, and you know, it comes down to, you know, a girl has to face off. This time it's Ginny. She has to face off with Jason and take him out.
Yeah, no, and I was very interested to see, because again, another little tidbit that I got from playing the game, how they introduced the concept of the whole like pretending to be Jason's mom,
Mm-hmm.
and how they integrated that, and they did a pretty decent job with that, I thought.
Yeah, this one I feel like is kind of the forgotten one of the bunch. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people don't realize like how decent of a horror movie this is,
Yeah.
and how good of a Friday the 13th movie it is. Usually, when I rank like my favorite Friday the 13th movies, um, Part 4 is my favorite, and I would say Part 2 is my second favorite.
Okay.
And I feel like a lot of people kind of look over it because, you know, it doesn't have a Jason with a hockey mask.
Yeah.
But there's a few interesting things to talk about with it. I mean, I can get the kills out of the way here because, I mean, that's what everybody comes for these movies for. There's a total of 9 kills in this movie. So the first one is, you know, like I said, Alice gets killed at the beginning of it, and I put that she gets stabbed in the temple with an ice pick, and it goes in like butter. Did you notice how easy it was for Jason to stab that ice pick through her head?
Yeah, I actually was a little bit weirded out by, I mean, of course, I mean, it's special effects and everything, but I was just kind of like, I feel like if you're going to do something like that, it would have been more of a stabbing kind of thing. That was just more of kind of like a slowly pressing in, kind of a weird
Yeah, it was like
action
he
thing.
was. It's like he was stabbing that through a rotten cantaloupe or something.
Yeah, well, I mean,
It's like
considering,
no resistance.
yeah, considering how Jason is kind of known for being so brutal,
Hmm.
it seemed very precise and like thought out while he was doing it, instead of the normal like just like slash and gash kind of a thing.
Yeah, and that kind of comes later with like the development of the Jason character.
Yeah. And I mean, it was what it was. I wasn't horribly bothered by it, but I did take note of that.
Yeah, and then like the only other the recurring character from the first movie is Crazy Ralph,
Yeah.
the "you're all doomed" guy.
I was actually
He gets
happy to see
strangled
him.
with barbed wire.
Yeah. I was happy to see him, and I was kind of well, I don't know if I would say I was happy to see him die, but I think I would more so say I was surprised to see him die in this one.
Yeah. Then the next one is the policeman gets a hammer claw to the back of the head,
Yeah.
which would be pretty painful. And then the creeper Scott, he gets his throat slit with a machete,
Mm-hmm.
and it's when he's hanging upside down. And this always bothers me every single time I see it. So like Jason walks up and just kind of wipes the back of the blade on the guy's neck, and it slits it open.
Yeah, I noticed that
It's the
too.
back of the blade. Like, did he sharpen it all around?
I
Like, I don't.
don't know.
Or like, was it just a mistake? Or like, whoever did the special effects didn't know how machetes work?
I'm not
That
sure,
always
but
bothered.
I did notice that. So you and I were together on that one.
Yeah, and then the fifth death is Terry, the girl in the short shorts and crop top. She gets killed off screen. You never really see how it happens. Um,
Wait,
and then
yeah.
Mark,
How
the
was that?
wheelchair guy, huh?
She got killed off screen. How?
Her body was just kind of discovered.
Yeah. Okay.
Those were like, oh, there's the body kind of thing. So Mark, the wheelchair guy, gets probably one of the most epic kills in this movie. He gets a machete to the face, and then like it sticks into his face, and his wheelchair rolls backwards down a hill, like downstairs.
Yeah.
And that one, like the first time I saw this movie surprised me because I didn't expect, the guy in the wheelchair to die.
Oh, really? Oh, I was totally prepared for it. I wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but I kind of got a little bit of a chuckle by him going down, rolling down the stairs.
Yeah, that was a good added bonus to it. The next one is one of the most notorious kills from the series, and that's Jeff and Sandra get a double impaling with a spear.
Hmm.
And again, they're doing it. So, in a hammock, I believe. Which,
Uh,
props to them. That'd be kind of difficult.
no, I think it was a bed.
Was it a bed?
Yeah, which,
Maybe I'm thinking where they got that kill from was from Twitch of the Death Nerve, which is an
okay,
Italian giallo movie. And that one might have been in a hammock.
okay, yeah, no, they were in a bed because it was actually really weird. Because what's the next death?
Which is Vicky, the one I said was the nice girl. She gets stabbed in the chest.
Oh yeah.
So
Um,
that is your 9 kills.
when Vicky, so yeah, it was after Vicky died, and then Ginny and Paul came back.
Yeah. Hmm.
I
Yeah, because the smart guy, the prankster guy, Ted, he stays at the bar, so he might be the smartest person.
yeah.
Imagine him coming back the next day. Like he's just getting drunk and he comes back the next day and he's like, what the heck happened here?
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, actually, it's funny that you mentioned him. What was his name again? Did you say?
The prankster guy?
Yeah,
It was Ted.
Ted. Okay, sorry, I was thinking Ted for a second. I'm mixing their names all over the place. Yeah, so Ted. All right, as soon as I saw Ted, I saw the main character. Can't think of his name from Ratatouille.
Oh, yeah, he does look a lot like him.
Oh
I
man,
can't
and
think of his name.
yeah, and I was just like, that was stuck in my head the whole time whenever he showed up.
See, what I think of him is that actor played a small character in the movie Just One of the Guys,
Okay.
which is an 80s movie where Joyce Heiser uh, plays like this girl who is a writer, and she's like in high school and they're not taking her serious because she's like really good looking, so she goes to another school and like cuts her hair and like pretends to be a boy
Hmm.
to like do like some experiment to write a paper on and everything. It's pretty decent. It's kind of a dumb idea, but it's a fun movie. And she's
Interesting.
actually like really cool with the movie because she didn't really do a heck of a lot after that, but like she had a Twitter and everything, and anytime I would mention something about her being in that movie, she would always comment on it.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah.
So something else to mention though is one, after everybody's dead and then Ginny and Paul come back,
Hmm.
I was they caught me. I was surprised with Jason in the bed.
Yeah.
First of all, like, why? Was he tired and he needed to take a nap or something?
And how long do you lay there?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of funny.
There's Yeah. What were you saying?
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say like I got a few things like that I think about in this movie now, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Um, so Ginny's the final girl, right? So
Yeah.
she's like the main character and the one that like takes out Jason.
Mhm.
So usually, like I'm a huge like slasher fan, and I've seen like so many of them, and all these ones that kind of ripped off Halloween and Friday the 13th. So the normal template for the final girl is she's got to be smart, she's got to be kind of like the girl next door, like she's got to be good looking, but not like super good looking, and she's got to be funny and like have a good personality, and then she has to be like so-called pure, like she has to be, she doesn't have sex, she doesn't drink, she doesn't do drugs, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Well, Ginny, I wrote down, she sleeps with her boyfriend Paul, she drinks, and then like another thing I found really weird, there's a part, speaking of beds, she's hiding under the bed from Jason and he comes in and she's trying to stay quiet, and then a rat goes in front of her and then she pees herself.
Yeah.
Does she pee or does a rat pee?
I'm pretty sure she did. That was my interpretation.
I always wondered why that needed to be added in there.
Yeah.
So she kind of like breaks the mold of the typical final girl, and for like fans of the series, she's one of the favorites, if not the favorite final girl.
Okay.
Just because she's different and has more personality than the other ones.
I will say with that moment that you're talking about, how she was hiding underneath the bed.
Yeah.
I thought it was very unusual that Jason then decided to stand on a chair. I was just like, why take that extra measure? Why not just go over and stab the bed?
Yeah, I think he was like maybe waiting for her to come out. I think
Yeah.
that's what he was trying to trick her. Like this Jason's a little more cerebral than the Jasons in the later like sequels,
Mm-hmm.
because he kind of like pretends that he's leaving and then stands on that chair so she can't see his feet.
Yeah.
And that's when like she starts to come out, and that's when he tries to stab in front of her, and the chair breaks.
Yeah.
Which I have to kind of mention, there's a lot of like slapsticky stuff in this, and Jason's like super clumsy.
Yeah. I wanted to mention a little bit about Jason too, because again, so like this is very, fresh for me. I kind of had my thoughts, perspective, a little limited knowledge. Most of my ideas or expectations with this are based off of the video game. I didn't realize that Jason was ever going to be like this. My perception was always that Jason was like how he was in part 8, essentially. Like he just walks everywhere and he's like immovable and you can't really do anything to him. The only thing you can do is basically slow him down, maybe.
Yeah,
And
this Jason runs.
yeah, exactly. Like, and you were saying too that he's like clumsy and he just seemed like real,
Yeah, more human.
Mm-hmm.
Because he gets hurt too by the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Because Ginny uses the chainsaw and like cuts Jason's arm with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason, he gets all kinds of beat up in this. He gets like kicked in the crotch too.
Oh, yeah.
Which always cracks me up. It's a super like tense chase scene, I feel like, at the end. I feel like they did a good job of following up the chase scene from the first one.
Yeah.
And another thing that I talked about, how the timeline's kind of jacked up. So this took place 5 years after the first one, and Jason was a kid at the end of the first one.
Yes.
He looked to be like 12.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 years later, he'd be like 17, but he's like pretty big and more like a man. I would say he looks like he's about 30.
Yeah, he got on the steroids there, so.
Yeah, that's a thing that kind of messes up with the timeline. It's kind of interesting to think about.
Now, so if he was, I can't remember the years very well, so maybe you can better than I can. But when Jason supposedly originally died, when the counselors weren't paying attention, up until the setting of this movie, do you happen to know how much time supposedly had passed from there?
Yeah, it happened in like the late 50s, I think. I feel like it was like 1958 or something like that. When they showed that flashback of like Mrs. Voorhees killing that young couple.
Okay. So then when did this take place again?
It would. So the first one was 1980. This was supposed to be
85.
5 years later. So technically like 85, I would think.
So if it had gone off of that, like he would have been like, I'm just throwing a really rough number out there. Like if they had said like he had grown, because Ginny was putting out the perspective of what happens if Jason didn't die and he's just out in the woods surviving. He would have been like 35-ish range.
Yeah, which is pretty close to what he looks like.
Yeah, but then that doesn't make sense for why Alice saw him as a boy 5 years earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of like discussion with this movie into messed up timelines, and the sequels kind of just ignore each other in that part.
Yeah, that's too
So it's like,
bad.
did Jason die originally and he's undead, or was he alive the whole time and survived in the woods?
Yeah. No, that's too bad, because it's an interesting concept that there will be no closure for. So,
Yep. A couple other things that I found kind of funny is so the character of Scott, I mentioned he's kind of creepy. The dude is like a straight up like sexual predator. Like he's spying on Terry, walking around with the short shorts on, and shoots her in the butt with a slingshot, and then he just kind of stands there and looks at her while she like looks disgusted at him. And then she decides to go like skinny dipping, and he goes and steals her clothes. And then he like holds them out and is like, "Come get him," kind of thing. Like I don't know, like what the point of that character was, other than just to be creepy.
yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. Like,
She obviously wasn't having it. So it's
what
not
would
like they were just like flirting with each other.
you say? Kind of like not a jock, but kind of like a preppy guy. Yeah, popular kid, always gets what he wants, and something.
Pretty much. Another interesting thing too that always made me wonder, and it wasn't until I watched it this time where you get somewhat of an explanation. So Vicky like takes a liking to Mark, the wheelchair guy,
Yeah.
and basically they insinuate that they're going to sleep together. And I always wondered how that was going to happen, since he's like paralyzed from the waist down.
Yeah.
And there was like a part earlier where she asked him about things working, and he says, "I do okay."
Okay.
But that was like the first time I noticed him saying that. But I always wondered how that was going to work.
Yeah. I that thought kind of crossed my mind too, but
And kind of like the last thing I really noticed this time, and it's after we played the game a lot. Did you notice that when Terry went to the cabin to get a pocket knife to cut the rope, it's the exact same pocket knife that you get in the game?
oh my gosh, no, I didn't even think about that.
Dude, it looks just like it. And then there's a part two where you see the yellow two-door car, the
Yes.
two-seat car.
Yep, I did recognize that.
That's the same one that's in the game, and it's got the same stuff inside it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of disappointed though that they didn't have Ginny's car in it, the one that wouldn't start.
Yeah, no, I thought about that too. I was just like, oh, that's a iconic car, and wonder why that's not in there. But
Yeah.
so can I tell a real quick kind of? I was gonna say at the beginning, but I forgot to, and I just thought of it. But kind of a funny story with me watching this movie.
Yeah, go for it.
So you had so when we're releasing this episode is going to be quite a while after we recorded it, because we're recording some things ahead of time for the month of October and things like that. But you, Brandon, you remember a couple of days ago we had that storm kind of go through?
Yeah.
So I normally it was a Tuesday night, and normally on Tuesday nights I'm downstairs doing some work and stuff like that. And so usually if there's a movie we're reviewing, I try to do it Wednesday night, the night before we record.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I decided to watch it on Tuesday night. So I stay up, I watch it, I get done. It's probably like 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to bed. I go to bed, and the storm comes through, a lot of wind and everything like that. One of my kids wakes up, and she comes in with me, and she like lays down because I'm kind of like in my own room area with the puppy as we're trying to train it with everything. So she comes in with me, lays down. Within like 10 minutes of her being in there, the power goes out.
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, oh my God, it happens all the time. So I don't really get, if I had been younger, yeah, it probably would have totally weirded me out. But here I am now watching this, and I'm just like, yeah, I watched this movie and total horror setup, power goes out. Now I have to go outside when it's raining in the dark with a flashlight, go to the shed, get the generator, pull it out, plug it in, start it up. And I was just like, this is just your typical horror movie setup.
Yeah,
So,
and it rains in this movie.
Yeah. So I was just like, this is awesome. I didn't get weirded out by it at all, but it totally crossed my mind where I was just like, yeah, go figure. Go figure.
That's funny.
Yeah.
The next thing I can get into is just like the trivia stuff.
All right, Rock.
So, when the filmmakers asked Adrienne King to reprise her role as Alice, she said that she wanted to be on screen for a short period of time because there was an obsessive fan she had who was stalking her. And the fan, like, broke into her apartment and she was, like, in fear of her life.
Oh.
So she kind of wanted to distance herself from the movie. So I'm assuming, like, give her a decent payday just to do, like, the short scene to kill her off. So that kind of explains why her character wasn't, like, a bigger thing.
Yeah. I still think, still going back to that, I still think that they could just kind of like summed it up with the campfire story and done some flashbacks during the campfire story, and that could have been it.
Oh, I agree. And you know what? They could have just ignored her character altogether. Because that's what they do in the later ones. That's what they do after this one. So originally, the sex scene where Sandra and Jeff get impaled, it was going to be longer and included full frontal nudity from the girl. But when Paramount Studio discovered that she was underage, the scene was deleted completely.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah, so she must have like lied about her age or something.
Whoops. I thought she looked really young.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing she was probably like 17, 16. So the policeman that I mentioned, he gets the claw hammer to the back of the head. He didn't know how to drive a car when they shot this.
What? Shut your face.
He didn't have a driver's license and never drove a car before. And I find it crazy. Like, I have the Blu-ray of Crystal Lake Memories, which is like a really long documentary about the series of Friday the 13th. And it's got like lots of interviews with like the directors, the actors, like special effects guys and all that kind of stuff. And that guy was in it, and he said that he didn't know how to drive a car when they made that movie.
What? Like, what was...
And he's like 60.
Yeah, like, what was he doing for the first 60 years of his life?
Right?
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, that always blows my mind. And the last thing I got here, so the ending of this movie, it gives you another jump scare, just like it's like the first one.
Yeah,
so,
I was ready
like,
for
the
it.
lead up to it, a little backstory, I guess. So the dog Muffin runs away. When Jeff and Sandra are walking out in the woods, they find like a mangled up dog, and they're like, "Oh God, that must be Muffin." So they're like, "Oh wow, they killed a dog in this movie, right?" So at the end, like, Ginny is sitting on the bed with a pitchfork holding out in front of her, and Paul is gonna open up the door, and he's got like a club or something in his hand.
I think it was the handle of the pitchfork.
Okay. Yeah, he's got like something in his hand. He's gonna, like, they're waiting for Jason to come and stick bash him. They open up the door, and it's just Muffin standing there. Like, so what the heck was that dead in the woods? It looked exactly like that dog.
It could have been a coyote or something like that.
I don't know. It kind of looked like a Shih Tzu or whatever the heck that dog was, or Lopsal or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
Some kind of dog like that. Some little yipper dog.
Yeah, I've seen some animal carcasses. My parents live outside of town, and they have quite a bit of acreage. And so every once in a while, like, you'll find an animal carcass that has like decomposed and things like that. And they do flatten out, and the fur like goes everywhere. So I could kind of see where it could be something else. But they totally were trying to sell you on the point that to make you believe it was Muffin. So
yeah, that's like when I first saw this movie, I'm like, what? So then, Ginny like relaxes a little bit, and she's like sitting by this window, and all of a sudden, boom, Jason plows through the window with no mask on, grabs her and pulls her out.
Yeah. Now, so that kind of leads me to question, so did Paul maybe die? Because Jason grabs Ginny, but somehow Ginny stays alive.
Yeah, and they take her out in the ambulance.
Yeah, but then you don't see Paul.
Yeah, that's a kind of a question mark. That's another time where, like, we've had this a lot lately, where they don't know how to end the movie right.
Yeah.
With Jason pulling her through the window, that should have been in the end. It should have been like, he pulls her out in slow motion, she's screaming, boom, black credits.
Yeah.
That's the way it should have been. And, my fact with that is, so her reaction to the end scene was genuine.
Oh, really?
Like, it terrified her because even, like, that was like I think they had to do 3 shots. And, like, each time she didn't know, like, the timing that it was coming because she had her back to the window.
Okay.
So I'm assuming they probably used, like, the 3rd shot, but, like, the terrified look on her face was real. Just kind of interesting.
That would have been pretty cool and interesting if it was like one single shot and she had no idea it was coming.
Oh yeah, that would have been insane. But she probably would have had fighting with the stunt man and hurt him or something.
Yeah.
But, I guess we could move on into grades. So I got the IMDb and Rotten Tomato grades for this. Do you know what the IMDb grade is for it?
Yeah, I may have seen it. I always try to go to IMDb to have some stuff up, and I try to scroll down without seeing it. But I think they put the grade down near the bottom too, which is like, come on.
Yeah, it's a 6.1.
Yep, that's the right grade then.
Which is, kind of in line with a lot of movies in this genre.
What was the first one? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I can get it for you real quick here, though.
Okay,
I feel like it's a lot higher, and I think it's just the notoriety and like what it did for the genre.
Mm-hmm.
It has a 6.5.
Oh wow, so not a lot.
Which we talked about this. I think this movie is better than the original.
Yeah, I could. I can agree with that.
The pacing is better. It doesn't have those long, pointless shots of, like, Alice making coffee in the first one.
Yeah.
Everything means something in the movie, so it's paced a lot better. The action's better. The kills are better, kind of thing.
I think it would be boosted really high if they took out that introduction at the beginning.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there was a better way of doing it. Like you said, the explanation around the campfire was enough.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the Rotten Tomatoes score, and there's a critic and an audience rating on this. So what do you think those are?
I'm gonna go with critic being 5.5 or 55.
Yeah, say it's on a scale of 100, but it's 28.
Wow.
28. So what do you think the audience one is?
65.
It is 48.
Wow, really?
I was like shocked. Yeah, I could, like, because these movies have a huge cult following.
Yeah.
Like, huge. And even, like, if you've never seen any of these movies, you know who Jason is.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows who Jason and, like, Freddy Krueger are and Chucky and that kind of stuff. Even if they've never seen their movies, like, he's an icon.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like Darth Vader's an icon. If you've never seen Star Wars, you know who Darth Vader is.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like those are, like, extremely low for, it's not a perfect movie. A lot of people might not enjoy it, but I feel like if you enjoy the Friday the 13th series, like, this is one of the better ones. I mean, you can't really compare maybe with the ones that you've seen. I mean, where does it rank with the ones you've seen?
Yeah, but still, even the cult following though, like there's that appreciation, even if it's not the best one. What did you say it was again? 40 what? 8?
48 for the audience score.
Yeah, that does not make sense. The critic and IMDb, it's kind of like it is what it is. That never shocks me if it's really bad. But the fact that the general audience would rank it so low, because I feel like so many of the people that would be watching it would be fans and would at least have appreciation enough to have it in the 50s, if not at least, hitting 60.
Yeah, I agree. I
Weird.
just don't understand why it's rated so low. Because I mean, I get into my grade, and I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I feel like it's, like I said, I always rank it as like the second best of the series,
Mm-hmm.
and I do believe it's better than the first one. I mean, the first one, I mean, it laid the groundwork for the rest of the series, and it was a huge movie at the time. But as a quality slasher movie and a quality horror movie in general, I feel like the second one is much better.
Yeah. No, I can agree with you on that. I would go with a 4 out of 5. I can't remember why I give the first one. But I'd probably just stick with the 4 out of 5 for this. Um, and yeah, like you said, I think it was well done. Definitely better than the first, because I think you pointed out probably the biggest problem with the first one is just that it wasn't directed and filmed as well as it could have been. And so this one was put together better.
Yeah, and it's surprising too because this one was put together rather quickly after the first one. Because the first one made so much money that this one, they threw together super fast to try to capitalize on the popularity of the first one. And I think they did a really good job.
Yeah, no, I'm impressed. I didn't realize that they came out so close to one another.
Yeah, and this one, like the budget for it was 1.25 million, and it made 21.7. I mean, that just goes to show how popular and successful these movies were.
Yeah.
In contrast, the first one cost 550,000, and it made $39.7 million.
Dang.
Yeah, and that's 80s money, so I can't really give you the extrapolation of that.
But it
You
was
can
good.
imagine.
Yeah.
But anything else you want to say about the movie?
No, I mean, it's as this series as a whole, I mean, it's been interesting. I mean, I started at the end of it. Because there's 8, and then is there Jason Goes to Hell after that, or?
Yeah, it goes Friday 13th, Friday 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, Friday the 13th Part 5, the new beginning. Then it's like 6 is Jason Lives. 7 is The New Blood. 8 is Jason Takes Manhattan. 9 is Jason Goes to Hell. And then there's Jason X.
Yeah.
Then the remake. Freddy versus Jason before that, and then the remake.
So yeah, it's interesting to kind of go through the progression, kind of see it, because I had all these thoughts in my head on how things would go. Like I told you, the first one was really interesting to me because it was not, I haven't seen that many slasher movies, but for me, it was just very weird because nobody knew the killer was there until the end.
Yeah.
And this one, for a little while that was the case, but it was kind of like halfway through and people were like, oh my gosh, there's a killer here.
Mm-hmm.
But then also I mentioned the difference in my imagination or thought process of what Jason was going to be like. So just seeing the progression through that, it's been interesting and definitely different than I expected. So, because part of the time too, I was just like thinking that, and I know there's plenty more to watch where it would just be like, boom, we're not going to even mess with much of a story. Jason's here. Let's just have him kill people.
Pretty much. That's kind of how it goes, especially in the later sequels. And I mean, if you got nothing else, we can kind of move on.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
All right. So the next one, we'll be taking a trip into the third dimension with Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. Until then, as always, be kind, rewind.